My entitled family tried to steal my inheritance, so I took back everything, one piece at a time. I, now 27M, was 21 when this all started. My parents were older when they had me, both in their early 40s, and I was their only child. We weren't rich, but they were careful, frugal, and smart with money. By the time I hit college, they owned their house outright and had a sizable nest egg saved up. My dad was a retired engineer. Mom had been a school teacher until she took early retirement to take care of him after a surgery. They were old school, loving, and generous without being flashy. Think potlucks, Saturday morning yard work, and puzzles on the porch. Our house was a beautiful colonial on about 3 acres of land in a small town. Nothing extravagant, but cozy, with a big vegetable garden and my mom's roses out front. My parents didn't flaunt their success, and I was raised to work hard, stay humble, and treat people with respect. Unfortunately, that's not how the rest of my family operated. My mom had one sister, Aunt Carla, and a brother, Uncle Ray. If you looked up the word entitled in the dictionary, their entire family could be the illustration. Carla married money and acted like she earned it. Her husband, Uncle Tom, owned a small chain of hardware stores that did well in the early 2000s, and they lived like they were minor royalty. Think Gucci purses, private tennis lessons, and endless Instagram humble brags. Ray was the opposite, perpetually broke, but always with an excuse. He bounced between jobs, moved into mom and dad's place once when I was 10, just until he got back on his feet, and stayed for almost 2 years. Their kids, my cousins Stephanie, Jake, and Amber, were classic spoiled brats, always complaining about how unfair life was while mooching off everyone. I kept my distance. My parents were civil, but they didn't trust Carla or Ray one bit. It happened fast. First was my dad's heart attack. He was gone in days. Just like that, my rock, my mentor, was gone. Then, as if the universe wasn't done with me, my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 3 months later. She lasted 7 months. The grief was unbearable, and I was still in school full-time, juggling 2 part-time jobs. But I came home every weekend to take care of her and manage things. We had long talks before she passed. She told me, "Don't trust Carla or Ray with anything. Promise me you'll keep the house, take care of the garden. Your father built this life for you." I promised her I would. And I meant it. She passed on a rainy Wednesday. The funeral was small, mostly neighbors and a few old friends, but Carla and Ray showed up in full black, sobbing like they'd just lost their own mother. 2 weeks later, I came home from class to find Carla's Lexus in the driveway. She, Uncle Tom, and my cousins were sitting at my kitchen table like they owned the place. Carla smiled wide. "Oh, honey, we just came by to see how you're holding up. And we had some ideas about the estate." Cue alarm bells. I told her I had everything handled. My parents had a trust, a will, and appointed me sole executor. There was no confusion, no drama. Everything was spelled out cleanly. But Carla wasn't listening. "Well, since you're so young and still finishing school, we thought it might be better if we managed things for a bit. You can't possibly handle all of this responsibly on your own. And your cousins could really use the space. Jake just lost his apartment." I stared. "You want to move in?" She nodded like she was doing me a favor. "Just temporarily. You can stay at your college housing, right? We'll take care of the house while you focus on school." That night, I changed the locks. That should have been the end of it, but it was only the beginning. Within a month, I started getting letters from a lawyer representing Carla and Raymond Smith, my aunt and uncle. They were challenging the validity of the will. Their claim? That I had manipulated my dying mother into cutting them out of their fair share. I was stunned. The will had been notarized, signed with witnesses, and structured by a reputable estate attorney. There was no loophole, just entitlement. Luckily, I had help. My parents' lawyer, Mr. Howell, was a no-nonsense old man with a love of coffee and a hatred for BS. He took their claims apart piece by piece. Still, the case dragged out for months. They delayed, filed bogus motions, and spread rumors in town that I was a greedy little snake who robbed the family blind. My reputation took a hit, but I kept quiet and built my case. While the lawsuit was pending, someone broke into the house. Nothing major was stolen, but drawers were rummaged through, some jewelry was missing, and, most telling, Mom's file cabinet where the trust paperwork was kept had been forced open. There was no forced entry, and the security camera I'd installed mysteriously stopped working 2 hours before the break-in. Police couldn't prove anything, but I knew. So I set a trap. I replaced the documents with copies, then rigged a second hidden camera facing the front hallway. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, I caught Amber, Ray's daughter, sneaking in through the back door using an old key she must have copied before I changed the locks. Video evidence, boom. I took it straight to the police and filed a restraining order against Amber and Ray. Their challenge to the will? Withdrawn days later. But I wasn't finished. After I filed the restraining order and had clear footage of Amber breaking in, things went quiet. Too quiet. That kind of silence in my family wasn't peace. It was plotting. I knew they'd be back, so I started planning too. I wasn't going to just defend myself anymore. I was going to take back everything they'd tried to steal, and more. I started by tightening up the estate. I worked with Mr. Howell, the estate attorney, to secure the trust so no further claims could be made, transfer the house deed fully into my name, lock down all bank accounts with 2FA, sell off non-sentimental valuables, and put them into a protected account. Then I contacted an old family friend, Joanne, who worked in real estate. I asked about zoning, tax filings, and, most importantly, the land value. Turns out, my parents' 3-acre lot had appreciated like crazy. Developers had been sniffing around for years. My entitled family had no idea the land was worth nearly $1.2 million. That's when I got a wicked idea. I started quietly telling certain family members that I was thinking of selling the house and splitting the proceeds, since the will had been so stressful. Word got around, fast. Carla called me within 2 days, sounding sweet as sugar. I knew you'd come around, sweetie. I always said you weren't like the rest of them. If you'd just sold the house from the beginning, this could have been a family affair. You know, fair and square. I recorded everything. She started talking numbers. What she thought she deserved. What Dad would have wanted. Even suggested her husband Tom could broker the deal and get us a great rate. Family discount, of course. I let her ramble, let her admit she'd read parts of the will while Mom was dying, that she knew my parents didn't want them involved, but it wasn't right. They owed us after all we've done. Boom. Intent, entitlement, and motive. On tape. Now for the masterstroke. I hired a friend of Joanne's, a guy named David who looked like a classic out-of-town developer. I asked him to pose as a buyer. His job, meet with Uncle Tom and Carla, who now thought they were handling the sale, and bait them. David met them at a golf course cafe, their idea, of course. I gave him a fake LLC name, business card, and a fake purchase agreement. Sure enough, Tom tried to negotiate the sale of my house without me. He claimed he was managing the property, showed David a copied version of the house deed that conveniently omitted my name, photoshopped obviously, and even proposed a finder's fee of $80,000 under the table if David closed fast. Everything was recorded, every last word. With all this in hand, I went back to Mr. Howell and we filed fraud charges related to the attempted property sale, a civil suit for harassment, defamation, and emotional distress, an injunction preventing Carla, Ray, or their immediate family from coming within 500 feet of the property, a claim for damages on the estate, since they tried to defraud it. Mr. Howell then sent a cease and desist letter to Tom's business, warning of pending charges if he didn't back off immediately. Let's just say, small towns love drama. Once the suits were filed, it was all anyone talked about. Uncle Tom's business started losing customers. Carla's social group, the ladies who lunch, ghosted her overnight. Ray, who still owed thousands in unpaid taxes, suddenly found himself audited. Turns out bragging about money you don't have on Facebook isn't smart. Amber? She got expelled from college over the break-in footage and was charged with attempted theft, probation, mandatory counseling, and a lovely stain on her record. Stephanie and Jake tried to stay quiet, but I leaked the emails they sent me during the lawsuit, the ones calling me a parasite and saying I should just disappear like my parents. People were disgusted. Here's the best part. I didn't sell the house. That was never the plan. Instead, I refinanced part of the property to build a home office and started a small business on the side, a landscaping and gardening brand inspired by my mom's backyard. It's doing well. The real revenge? I turned my family's toxic mess into motivation. I donated $25,000 in my parents' names to local charities, including a legal defense fund for elder abuse victims. I also bought the small piece of land next door when the owner passed. It was where my uncle always said he'd build his dream home one day. I planted roses on it. Mom would have loved that. It's been 5 years. I haven't spoken to Carla, Ray, or the cousins since the lawsuits ended. They're still paying off their debts and legal fees. Tom's business closed. Ray works part-time for a delivery service. Carla? Rumor is she's renting a condo now and still trying to sue someone else. Meanwhile, I'm living in peace. The garden is thriving. The house is mine. And every time I walk past that rose patch, I smile. Because the best revenge wasn't the lawsuit. It was taking back my life.